All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Build and Drive. Today we're going to be replacing the crankcase ventilation valve, the CCV, PCV, whatever you want to call it. What ends up happening is your car starts burning oil. So if you hop in here into my car, I'll show you. It runs pretty rough right when you start it. Let's see if it does it today. And of course it doesn't. But what it ends up happening is the idle will kind of be all over the place. Let's try again. Nope. See how this kind of revs up and down a little bit? I don't know if that's normal, but then here, that's about the normal amount of suction you want. So on the surface everything looks good, but it's not. Well, I know that my car's not working as well as it should. I think it's burning 1 liter every 1,000 kilometers. I know the problem because I have the replacement right here. So right here we have our top hose. Our top hose connects to our crankcase ventilation valve, which is this guy. It goes like this to like this. And then there's a bottom hose that goes to the bottom. And then this middle hose connects in the middle to the intake. So if you look at this hose, let me take it out of the package here. This is what it looks like. This one looks to be in good condition. Can you guys hear that? You should have a little valve in there, a little one-way valve. As oil collects in this crankcase ventilation valve, it will drip down back into the oil pan. What ends up happening is because the top end of the engine and the bottom end of the engine are different pressures, this can suck oil up through here and into the intake to be burned off. And that's where your oil burning problem comes into play. Another way you know that you have oil burning is when you take this intake off, you'll have oil in the intake. Last time we took the intake off, we did have oil in the intake. So I didn't really think much of it, but I'm assuming that this went bad or one of the hoses went bad. I mean, this sounds the same as the other one. So I don't know what's going on. But we're gonna send it, we're gonna replace all of it right now. The car burns oil, the car burns oil. So first thing we wanna do is take off the air filter, take off the cowls, take off all this plastic stuff. You're gonna need, I believe, an 8mm. Then I'm going to take off the intake. There are normally 2 little torque screws here that hold this on, but I took mine off, so mine doesn't have that. So that comes out. Then we have 2 screws here. They're 10mm. Where's my 10mm? It's right there. And you're going to need a screwdriver to undo this little map sensor and your intake. Is my intake loose there? It is loose. I'm kind of glad I'm doing this job again then. Alright, so we're going to just lift up on this tab and pull the map sensor out like that. And then this we should just be able to loosen. All right, and this should just lift up, just like that, just like that. I'm also going to move this. What are these? 8 mils? 10 mils. Oh yeah, we need to remove the cowl. Don't forget to remove your ambient temperature sensor. You just twist it out, unclip it from here, unclips like that, unclips like that. I gotta tape that back down. Move that out of the way. Another bolt there. And then we're going to pull this. I've already broken, so mine just pulls out, but you need to like pull on the tab here. Actually, it just kind of pops out like that. And then here as well, this just pops out. I've broken mine, so just know that you may have to press on a few tabs or something to get yours out. And then this cowl just lifts out. We're going to take off these little grommets here. We should unplug this sensor. Just like that. Put that to the side. I'm going to take this off just for some more space. This is a E14. Yeah. It's an E14. And this big one over here is an E18, I believe. I'm gonna pop up this little grommet thing as well. Put the E18 down in there. And loosen that up. You don't have to take it out right now. You can take it out later. And then this just pops up and pulls out. Perfect. And I'm gonna put this bolt back in here so I don't lose it. We're gonna disconnect the oil. I think this is an oil temperature sensor right at the oil filter. That's okay, that's out of the way. And now that that's out of the way, we're going to tie these guys out of the way. We're gonna undo this guy. The Disassembly valve plug. It's on the outside. We want to disconnect this hose over here. I guess we're gonna take this off as well. And deep socket 11. Take off the intake bolts. Nope. I'll have to use a socket to get at this last one. Right here. So now that we have everything more or less unplugged, we still have to get this top hose out, which you are going to break taking out for sure. So what I did was I put a pry bar in between to press on this side, and then I pushed with my hand on the other side. So that kind of worked. So now that's off. So that goes underneath the fuel. Well, that was normally attached here. I don't remember how. I just have it left there now to float because I don't remember how that goes back on, but you'll need to plug that back in. And down here, this is where it gets difficult. There's a junction box, and on either side of the junction box is going to be a Torx bolt, and I've lost both of mine, so this is already loose. But there'll be one like right here and one back there. You have to get this back off. Then we're going to unplug everything from the intake manifold. This is where you need to be careful to not break anything. So this one is the idle control valve. When you push the accelerator, opens the throttle. Is that the idle control valve? Anyway, accelerator, throttle, cable, whatever. Next, we're going to pull off the intake very, very gently. Just gently to pry this off. Just set it like that. And then we're going to unplug stuff. So this is the diesel valve number 2. Don't know what that is, but don't worry, they're different plugs, so they don't matter where they go. And now this is where the tricky part, because down there is the bottom hose to the crankcase ventilation valve. So what you need to do is just lift this up gently, and mine's broken, but you can also do this from underneath, which is probably what I recommend you do. You get one of these on eBay. This is a 6-piece fuel line AC quick disconnect tool. Includes the various different sizes. You're going to put this around the bottom hose, unclip it. You have to get under there. I'll show you that later. You're going to unclip that bottom hose and lift the intake out with the hose on it. My hose is broken, so I can just lift this out, and then I'll use this later to get the hose off. So I can just lift this out. Oh yeah, but first, back here, which is super annoying, is the plugs right here, right there, for the crankcase ventilation valve heaters, hoses. So they're wrapped a little bit to heat the oil flowing through. Is there anything else? Oh, and because if you take this hose out, it'll just come up with this. You don't have to disconnect that. So now this just comes out, and if you listen, well, isn't that interesting? There's no oil in here. I mean, there's oil film in here, but that's normal. As you can see right here, a little bit of oil around here is normal. And this is the hose on the bottom I'm talking about. As you can see, it wraps in front of this cable, not behind. I've made that mistake a few times. Probably even goes in front of this guy, it looks like. Okay, let's take that one off. Well, this just pulled right off. Normally, what you do is you get this underneath, you slide that in there, watch it click like that, and then this can come off. What do you think? This still is working. This one's a little bit longer, thank goodness. I don't know, guys. This doesn't have a check ball. This one does. You know what? I think we just have to trust in the new parts. So as you can see here, there's a bit of oil leaking, but nothing major. Not as much as was in there before. Yeah, let's get started taking this apart. We're gonna unplug these guys. It's a few bolts here, Torx bolts. We're gonna unplug this guy. There's one down. And let's unbolt all of this stuff. So guys, you do want to clean this stuff out. I was just in here like literally a week ago, so I'm not going to clean mine out. I took the diesel valves off, I cleaned everything. I know some oil got on it again, but you know, it's not like it's built up an incredible amount. So I'm just going to send it and not worry so much about it. So, forgot to put this bracket back on. Don't know what the bracket's for. If you guys know what the bracket's for, drop a comment below. I just had mine disconnected for so long, I don't care. So, all right, then we're gonna put this all back together. So the hardest part of this is positioning this hose into the right spot, because you won't be able to see anything once you put this back in here. So I know that it goes in front of this alternator cable, but behind this power cable. So I need to fit it in between those, right down this hole here. And now I guess I'll get under the car and snap it into place, snap this into place later. So I know it faces that way. I know this is actually, yeah, it's gonna face that way. In a moment. Or does it go underneath? No, it goes over top. All right, so you're gonna carefully, very carefully place this back in. We wanna get it onto these studs here. Move this up and out of the way. Best of your ability. I should have another bungee cable going that way, but don't matter. Just get her done. Hold this cable up. And don't tighten down the intake. What we're gonna do is we're gonna plug everything back in on the inside, and then everything back on the outside as well. And don't forget to plug in the heater wire for these. It doesn't matter which one you plug it into. It's just like a switch. They're all plugged in at the same time, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so this is the hardest part. Let's try this. Between here, but before here. Maybe even get someone to come and help you hold this shit up, because it's mighty annoying. So we're gonna go on the opposite side of that cable, but in between this cable. Opposite side of alternator cable, but in between this other cable, whatever this is. And we're gonna bring it down to the, I'll show you guys, this is gonna attach down here, right there, on the little, where it goes down to the oil pan, that little spout there, right next to the engine mount. So it's not going on there. That's super. So upon further inspection, this little O-ring is not seated down there nicely. So I'm gonna have to fiddle with this, but it's not seating at all. So whenever I push the tube down in here, it gets stuck. So I'm gonna have to try and seat this O-ring back down in here. There are 2 O-rings back to back. So, you know, wish me luck. Yeah, they're still good. Anyway, I fiddled around with some O-rings that I had to try and get a thinner one. I know it doesn't look like much, but I actually took out both O-rings and just put in one O-ring, and I was able to get it on there. So I really, see, it's not coming off anymore. So I really hope that that doesn't come back to bite me and that starts leaking or something, because there should be 2 there and I could only get 1 on there. So I think that the dimensions of that part are wrong. However, they've cast this, so I cannot recommend this kit. But I mean, let's just put this thing back together and stop wasting time. And I need to use the car tomorrow. So with that in there and on there, we can now bring this guy back in. Let's hook this guy up. And where's the other one? That one. All right, those are all in. Okay, now you have to reattach everything. This guy goes in here. Make sure it's the right way. I think it's this way. This one goes over here. And then now, this is where the hard part comes in. We have to attach the hose to the bottom of the CCV valve. And I know that you're not supposed to technically do it this way. This is the hardest way to do this. So if you can get your hose on the way I originally showed you guys, try that first. Otherwise, you're stuck doing it this way. You have to get this. Let me get a light for you. You have to attach the hose to the bottom of the CCV. So you have to hold this up, guide that in, clip it into place, which is impossible. Because you cannot grab at it. You kind of have to maybe get someone to hold this up while you grab here and try to clip it into place, honestly. All without breaking it. Okay, well, that bottom one is still on, so I think we're home free. And now everything just goes back together. So, goes back on here. Let's put this thing back together, yeah? guys, that's about it. I think everything is back together. You may have a different intake than I do because I'm in Europe. You guys are probably in North America or somewhere else. I forgot to put these little grommets back on. Should have done that earlier. So I put the screws back in for the cowl and the air filter. I lost one of the screws, but that's okay. I put the intake back on, bolted that back up, put this piece back on. Again, I don't have these guys, these little Torx bolts. I looked underneath, everything's connected. So I think we're home free. We just have to start it up, see what happens. So if you're interested in knowing how long that took, it took me 2 hours and 10 minutes. You guys can do it in probably an hour, less the time, if you don't have to fiddle with that damn bottom hose. Should only have taken me an hour, but it is what it is. You get some Chinese parts and they're no good. You have to fiddle with them to make them work. So hopefully this piece is good to go. Much better. So everybody, this is me in a couple weeks in the future. We've been driving the car and unfortunately drove another 1,000 kilometers, and guess what popped up on the dash? So it wasn't the CCV. I just wanted to replace everything to double check that it wasn't that. And now we're going to move on to much larger repairs and start to try and diagnose those. So feel free to hit the subscribe button if you're interested in tagging along on this adventure. Don't forget to follow me on social media for some behind the scenes and to see where we are in the project. Thanks so much for watching.